Okay, so let's dive into something kind of interesting today. Learning to speak like a CEO.
Okay.
Now, before you think, wait, that's not for me, trust me, this isn't just about like boardrooms and annual reports.
Right.
We're talking about unlocking a level of communication that grabs attention, inspires action, and honestly can help anyone get their point across with more impact.
Absolutely. And, it's fascinating. The principles behind executive presence, it's often called, are rooted in authenticity, not manipulation.
Right.
We're diving into Suzanne Bates' book, Speak Like a CEO,
Right.
to kind of unpack 8 secrets she's identified that can transform the way you communicate.
I love that. It's about amplifying your genuine voice, not putting on some fake persona.
Exactly.
So secret number 1 immediately grabbed me because it seems counterintuitive. Talk about big ideas.
Yeah.
I would thought more detail is always better, but Bates uses a brilliant example to illustrate this.
Right, and it's a powerful one, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address.
Oh.
Think about it. It was overshadowed at the time by a 2-hour-long speech. Yet Lincoln's words, delivered in just under 3 minutes, are what we remember. That's the power of a big idea.
Okay. That's kind of mind-blowing when you put it that way.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? Most of us aren't crafting historical speeches. So what makes an idea big in a way that truly connects?
It's not about length, it's about impact.
Okay.
A big idea taps into something deeply meaningful, something that resonates on an emotional level and leaves a lasting impression.
Okay.
Clarity of purpose.
Uh-huh.
Think back to speeches or presentations that have stayed with you. They likely had one central message that acted as a guiding force.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
For our listeners who are all about actionable takeaways, how can they pinpoint the big idea in their own work or message?
That's such an important question. A great starting point is to ask yourself, if my audience only remembers one thing from this, what do I want it to be?
Okay.
Once you have that core message, you can build everything else around it, ensuring every point, every story ties back to that central theme.
Okay. That's super practical.
Yeah.
Now, secret number 2 really resonated with me, and I think it'll click with our listeners too, especially those who value authenticity, speak in the moment.
Yes.
We've all sat through those speeches where it feels like someone's just reading off a script, totally disconnected from the room.
It's painful, isn't it?
The worst.
Bates shares a great example of how to do this well. Remember Arnold Zetcher, the CEO of Talbot's? He was scheduled to give a speech right after 9/11.
Oh, right.
And realized his prepared remarks were completely tone-deaf given the circumstances.
Oh, wow. I remember that. It would have been so easy to just power through with the original speech.
Exactly. But he scrapped it and spoke from the heart.
Wow.
He addressed the tragedy head-on, acknowledging the collective grief and uncertainty. It's a powerful testament to reading the room and adapting to the emotional landscape.
That takes incredible courage and awareness.
It does.
This makes me wonder, how much can we actually plan our communication and how much needs to be left open to adjust on the fly?
Right.
It feels like a tricky balance.
It is a dance, isn't it? Preparation is essential, but so is flexibility.
Right.
Having your core message and key points mapped out provides a roadmap, but being present in the moment allows you to adjust, respond to cues, and even weave in unexpected events.
So it's about striking that balance between structure and spontaneity.
Yes.
Kind of like jazz improv, but with words.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
The more you can cultivate that ability to be present and responsive, the more authentic and engaging you'll come across. It's about connecting with your audience on a human level, not just delivering information at them.
Okay. That's a game changer. All right, secret number 3 from Bates is music to my ears, and I bet our listeners will appreciate this one too.
Right?
Keep it simple.
Yes.
Seriously, why do some people insist on making things so complicated?
Right. It's often the simplest explanations that are the most profound.
Yeah.
They cut through the noise and get straight to the heart of the matter. Think about those aha moments we all crave.
Right.
They often occur when something complex is suddenly made clear.
That's so true. It's like that feeling of a light bulb turning on in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but honestly, how do we get better at distilling complex ideas down to their essence? Because let's be real, sometimes we're dealing with some pretty dense stuff.
Absolutely. And that's where things like analogies and metaphors become your best friends.
Okay.
Finding ways to relate those complex ideas to things people already understand is key.
Right.
It's about meeting your audience where they are. Focus on the so what, the core message you want to convey, and cut out any unnecessary jargon or technical terms. Remember, clarity is key.
It's like that quote, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough.
Right.
Okay, I'm adding that to my list of communication mantras. Speaking of important qualities, the next secret really resonated with me. Be a straight shooter. It seems like this should be a given, but sadly we know that's not always the case.
You're spot on. Bates really emphasizes this point, highlighting that honesty and integrity are paramount, especially in leadership roles. People are drawn to those they can trust, even when the truth is difficult. In fact, she mentions a survey that found honesty and integrity to be the top qualities people valued in their leaders.
And it makes sense, right? Trust is the foundation of any strong relationship, whether it's in our personal lives or professional ones.
Absolutely. And when that trust is broken, it can be incredibly difficult to rebuild. Bates shares a compelling story about Senator John McCain that perfectly illustrates this. He was known for speaking his mind, even if it meant going against the grain or admitting his own shortcomings.
Oh, yes. Wasn't it about his stance on the Confederate flag?
Exactly. He admitted that he hadn't been truthful about his position on the issue during a campaign, simply because he was afraid of alienating voters. He later confessed that compromising his principles was a mistake.
You'd think that kind of admission would hurt him, but it seems like the opposite happened.
Precisely. By owning his mistake, he actually gained more respect. It demonstrated his integrity and willingness to be vulnerable, even when it was uncomfortable. This goes back to that idea of trust. People are much more forgiving of mistakes than they are of deceit.
It's a powerful reminder that authenticity and honesty are incredibly disarming and ultimately much more effective in the long run. Okay, on to secret number 5. Be an optimist. This one resonates, but also feels challenging at times. How do we cultivate optimism, especially when things get tough?
It's a great question, and it's important to remember that optimism isn't about ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. True optimism isn't about wearing rose-colored glasses. It's about choosing to focus on solutions, possibilities, and the belief that things can and will get better.
So it's more about having a proactive, solutions-oriented mindset, even in the face of challenges.
Exactly. It's about framing challenges as opportunities for growth and innovation. When you approach situations with optimism, it can be incredibly motivating for those around you. It can be the difference between feeling defeated and feeling energized to find a way forward.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you have an example of a leader who embodied this kind of optimistic leadership?
Bates talks about Bill Ford Jr. taking over Ford Motor Company during an incredibly difficult time. The company was losing money, morale was low, and there was a lot of skepticism about whether he was up to the task.
I can only imagine the pressure he must have felt.
Absolutely. But he remained steadfastly optimistic.
Yeah.
He consistently focused on the company's strengths, the potential for a turnaround, and his own commitment to leading them through it.
How did it turn out?
Within 2 years, Ford was profitable again. It's a powerful testament to the power of a positive, solutions-focused mindset.
Wow, that's a truly inspiring example. It sounds like optimism isn't just a feel-good emotion. It can actually be a strategic advantage.
Absolutely. And that ties in nicely with our next secret: focus on the future. This isn't about ignoring the present or dwelling on the past. It's about having a clear vision for where you want to go and communicating it in a way that inspires action.
I love that. It reminds me of something our listeners, those learners out there, are always hungry for actionable takeaways. It's not enough to just know the what. We want to understand the why and the how. Having a clear picture of the future gives us something to work towards.
Exactly. And that sense of purpose is incredibly powerful. Think about some of the most compelling leaders in history. They all had a vision for a better future and a plan for how to get there. Bates talks about Rudy Giuliani's leadership in the wake of 9/11 as a powerful example.
That was such a defining moment in our history. How did he embody this principle?
In the face of unimaginable tragedy and uncertainty, he provided a message of hope, resilience, and a future where New York City would not only recover, but emerge stronger. He didn't shy away from the devastation, but focused on what could be done on rebuilding on the indomitable spirit of the city.
That's such a powerful example of leadership in action. He didn't just acknowledge the pain. He offered a vision for a brighter future.
And that's what great leaders do. They paint a picture of what's possible even when the present seems bleak, and they inspire others to believe in that vision.
Okay, so we're really getting into it now with these communication secrets. I'm feeling like I'm adding some serious tools to my toolkit here. What's next?
So secret number 7 is a good one. Be real. And now this doesn't mean showing up in your PJs to a board meeting.
Right.
Unless that's your company culture, of course.
Yeah.
It's about letting your authentic self shine through, connecting with people on a human level.
I like that.
Bates emphasizes that being real actually enhances your authority. It doesn't diminish it.
I love that because there's this misconception that leadership has to be stiff and formal to be taken seriously, but people connect with people, not titles.
Right.
Bates mentions Dan Wolfe, the CEO of 𝐊𝐵, who seems like a very down-to-earth leader.
He is. He shares anecdotes from his own life and isn't afraid to be a little self-deprecating.
Yeah.
It makes him relatable, and it makes people want to follow him.
Okay, so how do we find that balance of being authentic without oversharing or appearing unprofessional?
Right. It's about being selective and appropriate. Sharing personal stories that relate to the message you're trying to convey. Using humor that is inclusive and relevant, and being willing to admit when you don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
These are all ways to show your human side without sacrificing your authority.
I'm all about that. All right, on to the 8th and final secret. Tell me it's a good one.
Oh, it's a powerful one. Stand for something.
Okay.
This goes beyond just leading a company. It's about having a purpose, a set of values that guides your actions and inspires those around you.
I love this, and I think it speaks to something we all crave, a sense of meaning in what we do. Bates uses the example of Judy George, the founder of Domain, who seems like just an incredible entrepreneur. What's her story?
It's an inspiring one. She was essentially fired from her job and decided to take a leap of faith and start her own company. She poured her heart and soul into it, and it became a huge success. She's someone who clearly stands for something, for creativity, for hard work, for pursuing your passions.
And people connect with that, right? It's like that saying, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Exactly. And that why comes through in everything you do, especially in your communication.
Yeah.
It's about walking the walk and talking the talk, right? Not just saying you stand for something, but actually living it out in everything you do.
It's about authenticity, consistency, and having the courage to let your values guide your actions and your words. We've covered a lot of ground here with these 8 secrets from Suzanne Bates.
We have?
I'm already feeling inspired to level up my communication game, but I have to ask, what about those of us who might not feel naturally gifted in the public speaking department? Any advice for those who get those butterflies before a big presentation or feel intimidated by the thought of speaking up in a meeting?
I love that you asked that because it's so common. Most people don't spring from the womb as eloquent speakers.
Right.
It takes practice, just like any skill. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And don't be afraid to seek out opportunities to practice. Join a Toastmasters group volunteer to present at work. Even just practice speaking up more in casual conversations.
That's great advice, and I bet the more you embrace those opportunities, the less intimidating they become. It's like that saying, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Exactly. And remember, even the most seasoned speakers get nervous sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
It's normal. The key is to channel that nervous energy into positive energy, into passion for what you're speaking about.
I love that reframe. It's not about eliminating the nerves, it's about using them to fuel your message. Okay, so we've talked about finding our big idea, speaking in the moment, keeping it simple, being honest, optimistic, future-focused, authentic, and standing for something. That's a pretty amazing communication toolkit.
It is.
As we wrap up our deep dive into Speak Like a CEO, what's one key takeaway you hope our listener walks away with?
I think the most important thing is to remember that effective communication isn't about putting on an act or trying to be someone you're not.
Right.
It's about tapping into your authentic self, your values, your passions, and then communicating them in a way that resonates with others.
Beautifully said. And you know what? I think there's something incredibly empowering about that. It's not about having all the answers or being the most charismatic person in the room. It's about showing up as your best self and letting your voice be heard.
You said it. And that's something anyone can cultivate, regardless of their title or position.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the power of your own voice and using it to make a difference.
I love that. It's a great reminder that leadership isn't about hierarchy. It's about influence. It's about inspiring others to action with your words and your ideas. So for our listener, the learner, who's ready to put these secrets into practice, what's one thing they can do today to start speaking like the leader they are?
That's a great question. I would say think about a conversation or presentation you have coming up and identify the big idea you want to convey. What's the one message you want to leave people with? Once you have that, you can craft your message around it, use those storytelling techniques, and let your authentic self shine through. You've got this.
And there you have it, folks. 8 secrets to speaking like a CEO, straight from Suzanne Bates. Remember, this isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about finding your authentic voice, communicating with clarity and purpose, and inspiring those around you.
And who knows? You might just surprise yourself with the impact you can have.
Absolutely. Now, go out there and speak your truth.